morning. Trying to get another video made before it gets really super bright outside and there's too much light where I can't, or I totally just get washed out. And before I start work today, I wanted to talk about the struggle that I'm going through right now besides finances and weight. My main struggle right now is between both of my kids. I have a daughter that's 25 who's about to have my first grandbaby, and I have a son who is 17 who's about to graduate from high school. My biggest challenge is one, I have to get my son through high school graduation. He's already decided he doesn't want to go straight into college, so he's not going to do that. He has also already decided that he wants to be able to move out after he graduates into his own apartment with one or two of his buddies. So that's his plan. And, he's going to stay as local as possible. He won't be able to stay in the town that we're in right now just because it's too expensive. But one or two towns either direction, and he should be fine to be able to get a place that he can actually afford once he gets a job. My struggle is, of course, I want to be near my daughter and be near my granddaughter. Ideally, all of us would be in the same state. So that, I can visit and, know her from birth so that I'm not just a visitor. I would prefer to be able to be with her all the time. Not living in the same house, but with her all the time. And previously, in one of my earlier videos where I talk about some of my issues that I have, and one of them is impulsivity, and I'm very aware of this negative characteristic that I have. And sometimes it's super good, right? You can make people happy by doing something spontaneously that you didn't plan for or whatever. But, because I want to be able to be around my granddaughter and not have to stay at my daughter and son-in-law's house the whole time that I'm there. And I also really want to be able to give them some time away from the baby, right? So whether that's just for sleeping or for the two of them to have a date night or anything like that. And, selfishly, just so I get to spend tons and tons of time with my granddaughter. But my struggle is that same daughter, when she went to college, because we had a 529 for her, we were able to pay for her to have her own place while she was in college and studying, and so it paid for everything. The 529 can pay for everything, all of her expenses except for car expenses. So she got her own little apartment, and this was years and years ago, of course, because they were so much cheaper than they are now. But so she had her own apartment. We lived about 5 miles from where her apartment was, and so she would come home, 4 or 5 days out of the week, and just to chat or to have food or do laundry or whatever, which I loved. I loved her being able to come home, and I loved being able to visit with her and make sure that everything was okay and make sure that any of the needs that she had were being fulfilled, right? So I really loved that. We did that for 2 years before she decided to leave college. And once she decided to leave college, then the 529 no longer pays for her apartment, so she had to move out of that apartment. And she moved home just temporarily. And anyways, my conflict, my struggle, my internal struggle is that she lives in South Carolina, right? So I would have to get an apartment in South Carolina or buy a house there or whatever to be able to be around my granddaughter. Now, their long-term goal is not to stay in South Carolina. It's to kind of go in the hills of North Carolina, the mountains of North Carolina, and live there after her boyfriend gets a promotion and then can work remotely from anywhere. So that's their long-term goal. So I really struggle with not buying a house there because the houses are really affordable, and $250,000, which in Florida you're not getting anything for $250,000, let alone something brand new, right? So, and although the construction is not my favorite, right, I really prefer block construction with a slab. their house, which is a very nice house, for $259 or something like that, I could totally afford to do that. And then that would solve one of my struggles, right? Is that I would have my own place. The dogs could be with me. Currently, every time I go there, I can't take my dogs because they already have a dog. And it's not that they tell me, hey, you can't bring the dogs. It's just no one's going to relax if there's 3 dogs running around the house all the time, right? So I don't ever bring the dogs, so I have to pay someone to watch the dogs, whether that's my son, or if my son's not going to be here, then I have to pay someone to come into the house and watch them, let them out 3 times a day and feed them. So I really want my dogs to be able to be with me, and one of them is, you know, old. So, and he's really super nervous. I don't want him to pass away while I'm gone. And when he's at that stage, he's not quite at that stage yet. Like, he's still very, very mobile, and he's up and moving around and runs every once in a while. But when he really slows down, I want to be with him 100% of the time, so that if something were to happen, I was able to be with him when he passes. And I was able to do that with my last German Shepherd too, and that was phenomenal. I mean, it's very, very hard to lose your pet, but if you can be there through that transition phase and then they know that you're there, I think that it was really helpful for me. So I'd like to have my dogs with me. That's, you know, one thing that I can't do right now. And certainly when the baby comes, we don't need more noise in the house from 3 dogs instead of 1 dog. Even though their dog is super friendly, super sweet, but my dogs are too. It's just that that's a lot of dogs in a house. So that's my biggest thing. And I shouldn't be buying a house, right? I continuously talk about going through Dave Ramsey's baby steps, and the baby steps that I'm in is baby step number 2, which is to get 100% out of debt. And you're not supposed to buy a house when you're doing that step if you don't already own one. Right? So I did say that you can't buy anything in Florida for $250. You absolutely can buy older homes for about, I didn't see anything for $250. But you know, for $299 or something, you can buy, you know, a 50, 70-year-old home, 1 story here in Florida, and then just know that you're going to have to fix that up probably with $100,000, because it's probably going to need new roof, new electrical panel, you know, and probably new plumbing at some point, new flooring, you know, that type of stuff. It's going to cost probably $100,000 to make it look the way you want it to look. So it's not that you can't buy it in Florida, it's just that it's not nearly as cheap. My other struggle about being in South Carolina is I don't want to move to South Carolina. I absolutely love Florida. I want to stay in Florida. The other thing is that my son's going to move out, right? And so I'm totally in support of him moving out and starting his life journey with, you know, 100% responsibility for himself, etc. I want to be able to offer him the same thing that I offered my daughter when she moved out, is a place to come back to. Not permanently, you know, or anything like that, but a place just to come back to. So if he wants to come by and say hi, or just give me a hug, or come in and have something to eat, or just chat for a while, right? I really want to be able to do that for him like I did that for my daughter, because I really believe that that's super helpful when you're just starting out on your own, is to have, you know, some familiarity. Now, the other side to that is, you know, his father is still in this area. So he could go hang out with his dad and still have, you know, somewhat comfort of that too. But I think it's probably different, you know. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's different for me, certainly. I want to be able to be around my son still, even if it is, I know it's going to be a lot less frequent than my daughter, for sure. My daughter and I have a great relationship, and we always have, except for when she was like 15 to 18. That was very trying times for us. But I think it's like that with a lot of people with their high school age teenagers, right? And my son and I have had our struggles too, just not nearly as many, because we don't butt heads so much as my daughter and I did, because she's very similar to me. My son is similar to me too, but not nearly as much as my daughter is. And so anyways, I'm struggling with that. I don't know the best solution. And at the same time, I'm getting out of debt, so I don't want to have a place in South Carolina and have a place in Florida, right? Because that's not economically, I mean, while it's feasible, it's not the smartest decision for me. So I don't know. Having to be aware and control my impulsive thoughts is, over the weekend I had my daughter go to the house that's being finished right behind her. So she lives in a brand new development and they're building tons and tons of houses there. And it's not in an HOA, which oh my God, I absolutely hate HOAs. So it's a brand new house, 1,500 or so square feet. And it's all one story, which I hate stairs, so it's perfect. And it's a very nice little house, so the one behind her that's being built right now is going to be for sale soon. And so in my impulsiveness, I asked her, hey, go back there and see, what is the layout of the house. And when I was there last weekend, right, it was everything baby shower. So I didn't walk around and go into that house. We have, because her development is under construction now, like the ones that are being built in front of her, we walked through all those while they were in the final stages of construction. And none of those I really like. Like some of the houses, because they are inexpensive, you can get them even more inexpensively if you don't get garages. Or, if you get a single car garage instead of a double car garage. So, so there's all this flexibility in that neighborhood. And literally, if I was to buy a house there for $259,000, my mortgage would be $1,500, right? Which is awesome. It's awesome. And I can work remotely anywhere, so that wouldn't be an issue for me either. My biggest issue is, one, I don't want to live in South Carolina, and two, I don't want to be that far from my son. But I do want to be near my daughter and my granddaughter. So, so I'm really struggling with it, and it's a decision that I have to make some sort of decision before July, because I have to move out of this townhouse in July, which, thank goodness, I'm moving out of this townhouse. It's within my 25% of my take-home pay. So according to the Ramsey, way, I'm not overspending on a place to live, but I can live a heck of a lot cheaper than this place. So I'm really looking forward to saving that money and being able to get out of here. But if I have a place in both states, that's not going to be the case either. And then on top of that, in South Carolina, there's a state tax where there's not in Florida, so I'd have to pay more in taxes. And then eventually, I would move back to Florida at some point. So I don't really know what to do, but it's good to be aware of your negative characteristics, right? Impulsivity is one of mine, and I want to make sure that I'm not kicking myself 5 years from now because I have a house where my daughter doesn't live any longer, and now I have to turn around and sell a house that I didn't really, had my daughter not moved to South Carolina, I would never ever consider moving to South Carolina. Not because I don't like the state or anything, it's just not warm enough for me all year round. So anyways, let me know if you guys have challenges or if you're struggling with anything. I'm going to continue to pray for some answers on what the Lord wants me to do, where I need to be. I really love my church here. But when she lived in North Carolina and I went to church with her there as well, it was a very nice church too. So it's not like my church is the only church that I'm going to love. I'm open-minded to that kind of stuff. Anyways, I hope you guys have a beautiful and blessed day, and I will talk to you on the next video.